Welcome to Focus on the Candidates. I'm Cynthia Pula. My guest is Joey Palomino. Do you prefer Joey or Joe or Joseph?
Joey.
Joey. And he's running for Congress in the state of Georgia. So, Joey, what made you decide to run for Congress?
So originally, I did run back in 2022. Something happened, but what originally inspired me to run was I've always enjoyed politics. I've always loved it. I felt like stuff wasn't being done to impact a working class, dad like myself. And so when I had my first son, Jason, he's special. He was born with special needs. He has Down syndrome. And he also has had some health issues. Right before COVID hit, he ended up getting diagnosed with leukemia. That kind of showed me how bad our healthcare system is and how broken it is. I mean, luckily, my son is on Medicaid due to due to him having Down syndrome. But I met so many families in there that didn't have coverage like that and had to worry about going financially bankrupt or saving their child's life, and that really lit a fire in me. And also the support that just even with Jason being on Medicaid and his treatment covered, it was still a big process, especially living in a rural community like mine. There's not much access to care here. So that meant a lot of far trips to Jacksonville, the closest city to get his treatment. That meant, long nights staying in the hospital. And of course it was COVID. So at times I thought we did basically live in the hospital, or, me and myself. And we had Christmas there one year, and like I said, I just got the chance to that just really lit a fire in me. I just felt like everything was rigged against the working class people. I feel like I've struggled my entire adult life, despite doing everything right. I just got my bachelor's degree in political sciences. I was working 40 plus hours a week, and it just still not getting by. It's just so it really inspired me to just change things. I feel like people in Congress, often most of them are, very, very wealthy. And I feel like they just either forget where they came from, or they just, that stuff like, Medicaid, and they don't have to worry about Medicaid. They've never swiped an EBT card. They don't know what it's like. So I feel like it doesn't, they're not, our representation is not good. They're not
Is
serving the people they're supposed to serve.
is your son okay now?
Yes, he is about to turn 9 in 3 days. He'll be
Oh
on
boy.
October 13th. On October 13th, he'll be yes, on October 13th, he'll be 9 years old. His name's Jason. He's a wonderful little guy. He's the one in the background with me when he was a child. He's amazing. He wakes up every single day with a smile on his face, even when he was going through chemotherapy. He also had open heart surgery when he was under a year old. He got diagnosed with hypothyroidism at 2. So he's seen more health issues than most adults have, and he's gone through it like nothing.
So, how old was he when he was diagnosed with leukemia?
He was 4.
You know, I was diagnosed with lymphoma, and as an adult, it was difficult. I had to go every 3 weeks for a chemo treatment, and I
Mm-hmm.
often wonder what it's like for a young child to be subjected to that. So maybe you could enlighten me and my audience on, what it's like for a young child to go through chemo, and what do you tell them? I mean, do you tell them if you don't get this, you might die? How did you deal with that? That's really a terrible situation.
Yeah, I mean, it was very tough, and especially, with him having Down syndrome, it makes it even tougher because Jason, even at 9, he can't really verbalize, much. He still has trouble talking, especially because, that doing it, males require 2.5 years of chemotherapy, so that his developmental skills back a lot. He didn't get a lot of the attention he deserved, and also in this area in Georgia, um, just or in my rural area, I feel like they don't offer enough services, to improve stuff like that, occupational therapy, speech therapy. So it really did set them behind. So it is a very hard balance to it was very hard to balance, to kind of guess his mood at sometimes of what he's feeling. And I would say that I've worked 17 years as a veterinary technician, but before getting, I was still always involved in politics, but that was my main job. And my medical knowledge really, really helped me to be his advocate, if that makes sense. Because at sometimes doctors didn't even know what was going on with Jason, because he may not let you look at him a certain way, and he may, because his language is a bit unique. So there's sometimes I would have to guess, how he was feeling, because he couldn't, fully express it to me. So it was definitely a challenge, but I would say through all of it, he was happy and healthy. I mean, the whole standards of treatment, I think we can do much better. And then it got me into looking into it. We spent these big pharmaceutical companies, they worry a lot more about adult chemo drugs, and so does the federal government, than they do about children's care. His treatment plan to me was very, very outdated, and it's really comes down to money. There's not much money in child cancer stuff. So we're focused all those drugs, even if, say, if a drug was say if a pharmaceutical company makes a drug that's for adults, but it shows success in children, they'll often sideline it. Even if it helps kids, because just it's a money factor. And I feel like we could do it, maybe want to do better, and get some public investment in there, in research and development to do better, better treatments. Because I could tell they were painful. At times, he was getting injections of vincristine, methotrexate injections in his back, and I mean, he's getting intravenous treatment, and the medication is blue. It was like light blue, and you could tell him just shaking the whole entire time. And as a father, I could just sit there and all I felt helpless at times, because all I could do was just hold his hand and be like, I'm here for you, buddy. But he is a fighter. And still is to this day. He's amazing.
So, you know, a kid is a kid, and, they like to do fun things and play and ride their bikes and play with
Mhm.
their toys. How do you tell little kids that they have to put poison in their vein to live? How do you deal with that?
It it it, it was definitely challenging, and it was definitely hard for him, because he didn't really understand, I think, fully why he was, in the hospital, why he needed this, why he was limited, to just, I can't leave this room for, it was months at a time, and so it was very hard. The best I did, the best I could do, and I could do as a father at that time, and his mother did it great as well, was just try to make the hospital feel like home. And I do applaud the hospital staff down there at Nemours in Jacksonville and Wilson's. They did a great job of making the hospital environment kind of feel like a little bit of a home. It's that sounds kind of sad, but that's kind of how it had to be during COVID at the time. And he would often get, he had to deal with infections. If he had even had a slight fever of like 100, he's at the hospital. It was very, very rough. And it is, like I said, it's very hard to tell someone who can't fully understand the situation that, I'm sorry, Jason, but you can't go ride on Daddy with, you can't go ride on your ride on her. He used to love riding. I would put him on my little dirt bike in front of him. Like, you can't, we can't do this right now. So it was very hard as a parent, especially when you can't fully express that to your son.
So, as you're campaigning for Congress, I'm sure you talk about health care.
Yes.
Um, what's the reaction been for you?
Positive. I get a lot of positivity. I when I talk about how broken our healthcare system is, I largely get people agree around it. I just think it's some people have been fed, stuff, whether it's to the media, through politicians that are special interest groups, that, like I said, we're the only developed nation in the world without universal health care, but we pay higher costs. We pay higher costs for drugs, or we have a very high maternal mortality rate. Um, Life expectancy isn't as high as other developed countries. So it's like I don't like to hear the model. I don't like to hear that we can't do it because like I said, every other developed nation has done it. Why can't we make sure every citizen has access to healthcare and it's affordable?
Mm.
So largely, people do agree with me. It's just what I guess it just takes some talking around what the best solution is moving forward.
This actually takes my breath away. Um, because going through it as an adult, it was difficult because I understood everything.
Mm.
But when you're a child and you're the parent of a child that is going through this, that had to be absolutely horrifying for you.
Yes, very, very.
So if you're elected, how would you do healthcare differently?
I I personally support universal health care. Like I said, every other developed nation in the world has done it. We pay higher healthcare costs. Our government pays higher healthcare costs. We have people rationing drugs. I've seen coworkers that have had to ration insulin and use expired insulin. That's just not right to me. That in the richest nation in the world, we have people that delay care and or don't do it due to costs, and then how complicated and how patchwork of a healthcare system that we have. In my eyes, it's way too complicated and there's way too much red tape. I would love to see it simplified and I would love to have a universal healthcare model. I know that that's very hard because unfortunately, you have members of Congress who are bought and paid for by the big pharmaceutical industries, big insurance companies, all that kind of stuff, and then that's special interest groups as well influence it. So healthcare legislation is hard, but it does need a massive change. I think we do need I think we need a reality check of what we need to do, what a better model moving forward, because what we're doing right now is just not working. Right now the government shut down over healthcare because costs are going to skyrocket through the Affordable Care Act, which is better than before, but still we're just handing insurance companies massive subsidies in the form of tax credits. That to me is not a sustainable model to keep on going forward. I think we need to again align ourselves with the rest of the developed world and find a way to lower costs, provide better care, and make sure every citizen has access to the health care that they need.
Are you running primarily for an improved healthcare system?
Yeah, primarily yes on healthcare and economic specifically. I think if you improve, healthcare and the economy at whole. I look at workers' wages, and our wages have largely been stagnant for about since the 1970s. But at the same time, CEO pay has skyrocketed over 100%. And I look around at our communities, and we've been told that wealth is going to trickle down, and I don't see it in my communities. I don't see it. I don't feel like anyone else has seen it. Especially from what they've told me. So yes, healthcare, and primarily fixing the economy, making sure it works for working class people like myself, because I feel like for far too long, we've been unseen, unheard, and forgotten, and especially younger generations like mine, who are kind of disillusioned with both parties because they promise. They even the Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat, but the Democratic Party has promised a lot, and they haven't delivered. And I think that has turned off a lot of younger voters and make them feel politically homeless. Because I know I felt that at times.
If elected, what unique qualities would you bring to the table?
Transparency is one. And I don't take no pack money, so I would never take any corporate bribes or anything from a lobbyist or nothing like that. I like direct democracy, so I want to be more engaged with my constituents, make sure that they know the bills that I'm voting on, give them a chance to get some feedback before I vote on them, let me hear what their voices are, give monthly town halls just to be more involved, make sure I open up more offices in rural communities so I can speak to people in the whole entire district. Because right now I know I live in Camden County. Our representative is Buddy Carter. I'm not running against him. He's running for Senate, but the closest office is far away. You get a substantial allowance to be able to open offices and provide constituent services. I want to make sure that people know the help that's available to them in the legislation that I passed, because I find that's a big problem too. Is people don't even know the kind of help that's out there, and just blunt honesty. We have Congress members of both parties who sit there and trade stocks for millions of dollars and yet are voting on the same exact bills. That's not right to me. That's you can't you can't play the game and write the rules at the same time. So I'll happily call out corruption in my party, the Republican Party, and I just want to deliver real results. I'm not in this to be a career politician. I actually signed a term limits pledge because I believe members of Congress, just like the president, should be limited to how many terms they serve. It shouldn't be a career seat to further empower yourself or hold on to power. But just a form. I just want to bring ground and honest representation and actually deliver real results, and not speak about it from a podium, because what I speak to are all lived experiences that I still deal with to this very day.
Wow, this is amazing. So how long have you been running?
So I started this campaign in August, but I did declare I was the first declared candidate. I really started heavily campaigning in August. That's how I got, like I said, I was a working class dad. I still didn't make money. So I had to prepare myself, to give myself that time to campaign, set myself up job wise where I could do that. So it took me about August to physically get all that ready. But I was declared back in 2024. I was ready to go. I thought about running in 2024, but the environment was not right. And my primary goal then was to make it so Democrats at least won the House or the Senate. So some legislation that I saw get passed during the previous administration that was good in my eyes and a positive step forward, but people weren't feeling the effects because it's more of a long-term bills, if that makes sense. I
Mhm.
wanted to see them protected. So I tried to, go around and campaign for as many candidates as I can and knock on as much doors as I could, sending out thousands of postcards and, getting on phone banks and hosting stuff on Mobilize just to try to, blunt the impact of what we're seeing right now. Unfortunately, we weren't successful in doing that. We came close, all Republicans won the House by a very, very thin majority. As you can tell, they were still able to, pass massive cuts in their so-called one big beautiful bill, to Medicaid, to food stamps, and all that kind of stuff. And that's what I wanted to avoid.
Will it affect your son at all?
Uh, so Georgia is what we call 1634 state. So as long as Jason has Social Security, they can't touch his Medicaid. So
Okay.
he is in theory protected as long as they don't go after his SSI and his eligibility is safe in that sense.
Okay. Okay.
But it could hurt his mother. It could hurt his brother. He does. She does benefit from food stamps as well, because so the cuts are going to impact his life. Yes, in ways.
How do you balance being a parent of somebody with special needs and campaigning? How do you do that?
So I made a pledge when I first started that I would never ever let my campaign get in the way of Jason. He does have to come first, as I think every parent should put their child first. And I've kept that pledge ever since. I make sure I'm there to put him to bed if he needs me. I make sure, if school calls and he's sick, I make sure I have that time to go get him. And I just want to make sure that he still knew he was a priority in my life, because he does need me. He loves his dad. I'm not saying he don't love mama. He does love her, but he does favorite me a little bit.
Okay. Okay. So does he campaign with you at all?
A little bit, yes, actually. He just made it out. We had a Democrats, because I'm the vice chair of the Democrats at Camden County as well. I've held that seat since 2024. My term ends in 2026. It's a great little gig. It's unpaid, but helps me, kind of educate, the local community about the Democratic Party and what we stand for, and kind of connect more and try to get us. I like to focus more, on that. I try to separate the two of my candidacy and serving as vice chair because I don't like how parties behind, can put their finger on the thumb or anything like that. So I try not to use my position as any way to promote my campaign, but I still serve there. And Jason comes with me. We just had an event. We just had an event out in downtown Camden. It was my gosh, I forget the name. It was like a jazz event or some blues and jazz event, something like that. I'm sorry if I forget the exact name, but he was just out there and he ran the little campaign table. And then
Oh,
I
getting with
get I get
that.
him, yeah, and I get him in a few ads. I call him my little campaign manager.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I make to include him. He's a good he's a good part, and like I said, I think it's important to include Jason because his story is what really lit a fire under me to do this. So I think
Right.
him being a part of my campaign is a core part, and I hope that helps me connect with voters to show them that I am really in this for the right reasons.
So if your fairy godmother came down to you today, handed you her magic wand, and said, "You have one wish to make this country better," what would you say?
I would say Mm, I would do healthcare. I would say make sure every citizen in this make sure every citizen in this country has access to affordable healthcare, and that means free at the point of service, no co-pays, no deductibles. That would be a big. I think that would improve our economy a lot, and just hit. I don't like how we have healthcare so complicated, how it's tied to employment. It's it's not a good model for me, and I have seen families suffer and kids suffer in front of my eyes, due to our current model, and it's not right. It's not, and some people have to feel that. Some people have to feel it, personally, and until they change their minds. But that would be what I address. Would be healthcare if I had one wish. Fix this.
So if somebody wants to donate to your campaign or, be involved in your campaign, how could they do so?
So my website is under development right now. It should be up in about a week. It'll be Delhi for Georgia. I do have an Act Blue account where you can donate. I don't know if you're familiar with Act Blue, but it's what most it's where most Democratic candidates fundraise off of, and most of those groups as well. So I have an Act Blue account. Take Cash App and Venmo as well because I know stuff's evolving, and we make payments with our phone nowadays so fast. I try to make things as simple as easy as possible. But I have a great friend. I have a great friend who is amazing with websites. I cannot wait to see what he's done
Wow,
with my
that's
website.
great.
He's a very very busy guy, but I had to wait. I would have liked to have it up sooner, but I waited specifically for. He did my last website before and did an amazing job. Like I said, he's a great friend. Gives me a great price, which is important as a working class candidate because money in politics is a big thing of mine too. It's in my eyes, it shouldn't cost as much money as it does to run for an election.
Right.
And sometimes I feel more like a telemarketer than when I am a candidate, which I don't like. But yes, he does an amazing job. But he also has a family, just like me, just like I do, and he's very, very involved in the whole political process. With getting candidates elected. So it took a bit, but he it should be right in about a week, and that's called it's called we got the domain name Joey for Georgia, trying to keep it very, very simple.
So final thoughts?
Um, I'm excited. I really enjoy campaigning. I hope I can't wait to get out there more and talk to voters. There's big events coming up. I'm kind of a unique candidate where I look at it as, I'm like I said, I'm running as a Democrat, but I understand the Democratic Party hasn't done the best job in some areas, and often they don't acknowledge that. And that's kind of led to the current situation that we're in right now. You can't ignore working class people for 40 plus years and expect them not to want change. And even if that change, it came in the form of Donald Trump because they wanted an outsider because they don't trust the government.
Right.
I can, I have success. I worked at UPS at one point, to get extra money, and I was a team, I was a union member there as a Teamster. And most of them people actually leaned, a bit right, surprisingly, being union members. But I could speak to them very. I can speak to those voters very well who went to Trump. I don't call, I don't attack voters. I don't want to alienate anyone from my campaign. Everyone is welcome. Like I said, I'm just tired. The status quo is not working at all. So if you believe that, you're welcome to join my movement and to fight for change, for real change.
So you've been listening to Joey Palomino. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is focused on the candidates. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Joey, the best of luck to you. And thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much for having me on. It was an honor.